Thank you. I really enjoy reading the comments that are on your special page for this group. And if you haven't gone on the page to read the comments, I recommend it. It's a beautiful exposure and support. One of the things that has shown up a couple of times and is very familiar in many people I speak with, and I'm very familiar with it. It was a theme of my life before I met Papaji, and that's not feeling that you're enough, not good enough, not enlightened enough, not kind enough, not pretty enough, not loving enough, not smart enough, whatever it is, it's not enough. And that's in large part because of our social conditioning. Because if we feel that we're not enough and we should be enough, that keeps us working toward that. And in that sense, we're slaves. We're slaves to some ideal or idealism of what enough will be. And it's always out of reach. That's the nature of those. I don't know if it used to happen, but there were cartoons where there would be a carrot suspended in front of a donkey's face so that the donkey would keep moving to get to the carrot. Maybe they actually did that at one time, but it's became a joke. And it is a joke. It's a hard joke that doesn't generate a lot of laughter, but many people, maybe most people, regardless of their accomplishments or the praise they get or the money they get, feel like they need to do more to be enough. That keeps the world turning. And there's a certain real exhaustion that happens with that. Emotional exhaustion, physical exhaustion, mental exhaustion. Because no matter how often you change who you think you are or what your goals are, excuse me, and no matter how often you experience some success, finally, you are not enough. So that's actually very fertile ground for self-inquiry. We are used to believing that and imploding and suffering with that. And we're used to using that as a whip to get us to work harder, to be more disciplined, to do the right thing. And we're used to being inflated that I am enough. I'm fine just as I am. And those are affirmations that we have learned to do as a way of avoiding this deep pit of suffering, of not enoughness. But all of those things, while they may work for a moment, finally don't work, because in the dead of the night or in another failed adventure or failed relationship, you are left feeling you are lacking something. And the truth is, you are lacking something. Until you discover the wholeness of your being, you are lacking that. And no matter what you throw at that, it will never be enough. Because what you crave is to be yourself. And to be yourself is to be whole. What we substitute being ourselves for is some idea of ourselves. Society's idea, a teacher's idea, a parent's idea, a lover's idea, or some idea that we got from a movie or a book. And so it's a wheel. You recognize that it's a wheel, it's a cycle, but it's not mental finally as it is emotional. Just this sense of I have to perform, I have to do more, I have to hide, I have to fight that. And that keeps the mind very active. And in an active mind like that, there's an overlooking of what is actually more than enough, the bounty of the truth of who you are. So certainly as any individuals, we are not enough. We do need each other. We are only parts of a whole as individuals. But within each individual, and especially you, because you are drawn to this, you are somehow attracted to this wholeness, this promise of wholeness, this declaration of wholeness, this invitation to wholeness. Mysteriously, the way to fully realize wholeness is to be willing to be absolutely not enough. That's the paradox of inquiry. We have to be willing to be open to the truth of our death, because that's finally not enough. That's zero. And if our whole life is spent fighting that intimation of death, that intimation of disappearance, then we wake up one day in our 70s or 80s or 90s, and we realize that life has been wasted. It's been following the carrot in front of our face that can never be found. The beauty and the challenge of self-inquiry is to really open to not being enough, to not being good enough, awake enough, kind enough, loving enough, smart enough. To just fully open to that. Just as a couple of the participants yesterday showed us how wherever you experience that, in whatever way you experience that, for some people it may be a pain, for some people it can be a sense more than a pain, an agony, or grief. Whatever it is, as any sensation or emotion, you will find it located somewhere in your body, because it's an emotional state. The statement, I am not enough, is mental, but the realizing that statement, I am not enough, or rather subtly fighting that statement or hating that statement, becomes located in the body as some kind of implosion. Even if the posture is one of perfection, the implosion is waiting underneath that. So it's radical business, this self-inquiry. And you have asked for the radicalness of self-inquiry. If you're willing to open, really open your mind to the not enough, the imperfection, the less than, the self-hatred about that is lodged somewhere in your mental and emotional and physical body, then you can have real self-inquiry. Like just in this moment. Maybe you aren't feeling it in this moment. Maybe you can just remember a time of feeling it, and maybe you are slightly feeling, well, everybody else is better, or I'm not as good as I should be, or as enlightened as I should be, or as kind, or as smart, or as loving, as intelligent. Using any of those statements as a diving board to jump into wherever you feel that lack, that not enoughness, with your attention, leaving all stories that are the proof of that, or the proof that you are enough, just leaving them behind for a moment of self-inquiry, a moment of self-exploration, using this very deep and very human and very life-denying thought and emotion that's connected with that thought, just so that you can dive into the feeling itself, maybe in your chest or your solar plexus or your belly. Just usually some kind of dark, unwanted feeling. But to open to that, to not fight that, and to not follow that into another thought, either denying that or affirming that, to simply open, to stay conscious and be open and experience what it is to be fully not enough, no hope. It is a form of meeting death, because when we die, it is because we are not enough. Our body is not enough that it continues. So this sense is not necessarily wrong. The truth is, you are not enough for physical immortality. And you know that. And you deny that. The beauty with Ramana was he was young enough to sense that death of the body and to meet that. But for you, it may be a sense of the body is fine or the body's alive, but really I, the truth of myself, is not enough, not complete. And when you open to that, simply, with no story, with no indulgence or fighting any emotion that appears, what do you experience? And if you're fighting not enoughness, just be willing to stop that fight. If you're telling a story about not enoughness, just be willing to stop telling that story, just for this moment. If you're afraid to face not enoughness, just be willing to be courageous in this moment and open. Tell the truth about what is here. And I would like to hear from you to let us all know if you were able to inquire into this and what you discovered in this inquiry. There are no right or wrong answers in inquiry. It's really a training for the mind to actually not run away or fight or indulge whatever is arising to be met. You have the capacity, and in your willingness to use that capacity, your capacity grows, it strengthens, so that you can meet anything, as you have to meet everything. And in each meeting, you recognize more deeply the truth of what is here behind every emotion, regardless of any thought form. And you can then see for yourself, is it always here? And if you think it is not always here, then you are willing to inquire into the circumstances of when it is not here. the emotional repercussion of the circumstances. Because if we inquire into the circumstances as thought form, we will just meet another thought form and another thought form. But when we inquire with no mind, with no thought, but open mind, then we have the capacity to make the greatest discovery. Always here.